What is going on? What is going on? What is going on, party people? It is your boy, Coach D Brown, former big leaguer, former first round pick with the Kansas City Royals. Giving you all this knowledge that I can in the youth baseball space, helping kids get maximum exposure in and around in the country, and helping kids get into school. April 24th, I will be in Little Rock, Arkansas with the showcase. All right, so make sure you come on out there. I put the link up in the description. Also, you can see on the Facebook pages, man. So speaking of Kansas City Royals and big leagues, I'm joined by my former teammate. Second time around on, not too many people get two times on the show, you know what I mean? So it's my boy, man, former big league, long time catcher. Paul Phillips with S2 Cognition is coming on back on it today. We just added on to this value all week. We had some really great guests talking about the analytical side of this baseball thing, man, where it's going, and how can you be ahead of the curve as a parent and player, and how to, make sure you're ahead of the curve when it comes to recruiting and what these college and pro scouts are looking for. So my boy Philly is a world of knowledge. They have some great updates since last time we had them on. So without further ado, I'm joined by my boy Paul Phillips. Philly, what up? What's good, baby?
Hey man, how you doing?
Good, bro. Listen, man. So I love to get into this. The testing that we're going to talk about. One of my guys came through to you, and you gave him a test. We're going to go over that. But I also want to make sure everybody know your background. I mean, I kind of briefly said it, man. But if you could, very quickly, just talk about your career and to what you're doing right now.
Yeah, no doubt. So, out of high school, I went to junior college for 2 years. Was fortunate enough to play in the Junior College World Series one of those seasons. It was a great experience. Our team was, I mean, we had a phenomenal team. We were 50-12 my first season and 50-8 my second season. And then I went on to play at Alabama for a season. Was drafted 3 separate times. I was drafted in the 59th round by Kansas City out of high school. And then I was drafted the following season in the 25th round by the Astros. And then I went to Alabama and was drafted in the 9th round by the Kansas City Royals. And that's when I chose to start my professional career. Did that for 15 seasons, played for 6 different clubs, 3 in the big leagues. And in 2012, I decided to stop playing and start coaching. And so I started my coaching career at Lipscomb University here in Nashville, where I live currently, and did that for 3 seasons. And we went from there to the Marlins. I was a AAA hitting coach for the Marlins in 2016. 2017, accepted the position to be their catching coordinator. So I did that in 17 and 18. Resigned from that position to do the position I'm doing now, which is the baseball softball director of development with S2 Cognition. And so it's been a fun ride. It's just been a ton of ball, a ton of unbelievable people that speak the game, that know the game, and I've learned so much from so many people along the way that's got me to this point right here, bud.
I mean, wealth of knowledge, great experience. Stop coaching to get into what you're doing now, man. So if you briefly could, you talked about it, but kind of give a background on the company too, please. Again, for the listeners who may not know.
Yep. So, one of the biggest passions I have is player development. And so I've always been a firm believer that you can make anyone better. That doesn't always mean you can make someone good, but you can make anyone better. And so, it all starts on what they bring to the table in the beginning, right? Mom and dad and God and all that's got to be, it's a huge part of it, and your life experiences shape a lot of the things that happen with the development of your brain, the development of your body. I mean, so many things, right? Nutrition, everything has an impact in the way that you develop. And so, knowing that, one of the biggest things for me is helping people understand what it is they're currently working with on things that they truly can't see in the past, but are able to see currently. And what I mean by that is, you hear a lot of people talk about, man, this player, he's playing faster than his foot speed really is, or he's always in the right spot at the right time, or he's always making the right choices. And God, this guy's got really good instincts. Well, a lot of the times what we do is we just label that pure instincts. This kid's he's a gamer. He's an instinctive player. Well, what our company does is we measure each system of the brain that we know is responsible for the way that you play and make decisions on the field and on the court and on the course and on the rink and all of that. We're in 9 different sports, but my specialty is here in baseball and softball. And so what we do is we put the players through an assessment, and this assessment gives us feedback. And this feedback tells us, hey, look, this is where their brain is in their development phase currently. And so what we can do with that is identify any areas or any systems that might be underdeveloped, which, just so we all know, it's not their fault, right? It's just, it is what it is. If you were to ask me to dunk, I'd be like, I can't. Mom, Dad didn't really put that in me, and I just can't get up there, And so, but with all that being said, we take what they bring to the table, and then we put together individualized player development programs to help strengthen those brain systems so that they perform better on the field. That's the ultimate goal and what our company does. We're in Major League Baseball, we're in the NFL, in MLS, we're also doing things in the NHL. And so, I mean, we have a lot of professional organizations using us in multiple facets, right? Player development, player selection, analytics, and so they're just using it in so many different ways. And, we're in college baseball, college softball, college sports all across the board. They're using it in their camps. They're wanting to see what these future players have to bring to the table and measure it up against their players. They want to see, I want to get a kickstart. These coaches are saying, hey, once we've got this kid committed, and he takes this evaluation, we want to get his development kickstarted so that he won't skip a beat coming from high school straight into the Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, whatever the junior college level, whatever that level may be. They want to make sure that these players aren't skipping a beat in their player development, and they're actually going to get something that's even going to be even better once they've committed this player.
So you're saying that college coaches are using this right now, as we speak right now, college and pro coaches, which I know the answer because you spoke to the group in the Pittsburgh Pirates last year. So college coaches are using this information, when it comes to grading out players. It's just part of the norm now, right?
Absolutely. And so you think about it is, I was thinking about this earlier today. It's if you were going to go buy a car, wouldn't you want to test drive it? Wouldn't you want to know the Carfax on it? Wouldn't you want to know all the information you possibly could before you're about to drop that large amount of money on it? Right. And the answer is yes, of course we would, but sometimes it's like, hey, I don't know if I want to do that test. I don't know if I want to do this, or I don't know if I want to do that. And it's like, well, why not? What are we hiding here? But at the end of the day, I also understand the side of it's a big investment. We have some teams that, they're like, we really want you to take this because we really want to get you going even faster and get you developed even more before you get here. So it's not like they're just, picking some player or not picking a player because of our information. We're just one piece of the puzzle. I was listening yesterday, and all of the technologies that people are using, they're pieces of one big pie. We're just one slice of the pie. And so it's a pretty important slice, right? Because it's your brain. Your brain makes everything work, makes everything you do. Everything you do comes from the brain. And so when we understand how to measure that and how to help players understand, okay, if I'm underdeveloped in this system, here's what I need to do to keep it from showing up on the field, keep it from showing up in the batter's box. And, you don't get paid. No recruiter will ever come see you just because you have a good score on our evaluation. They come see you play because you can play, right? This just helps us understand why you make the mistakes you make and why you are actually so good, and so this just gives us a better insight of how we can develop and train you better for whatever team you're planning to be on.
I know Tiffany said we're cutting in and out. I don't know, but it sounds good on my side. I know we had a little whatever, but Tony Miranda says, what's up? All right.
Tony, what's up?
Pookie Wilson says, what's up? We're gonna get into this right away. I'm gonna get some of these questions before. Yeah. Deshaun says, very interested. How can we get access to that system in Georgia?
Yep. So currently, right now, we work events. Our pro teams and colleges, they bring us into our pro teams. We go to like PG National area code events. We go to several of these events and measure players. But a short answer is we're in Nashville right now. You would either have to find out where we're going to be in the future and show up at one of those events, or come to Nashville. And so, but in the very near future, we will have a much larger scalable system available so that we can be in multiple cities in the country.
How many college coaches are using this right now off the top of your head, Philly, if you know it, that number or close to it?
Oh, well, I couldn't tell you. I'd say almost a dozen at least. I mean, you got Vanderbilt, Baylor, Iowa, Missouri State, Wright State, Lipscomb, Belmont. I mean, just to name some of the ones that come right to the top of my head, and most of those schools, their softball programs are using it as well. I mean, you talk about Alabama softball, Alabama football, LSU football. I mean, we're six teams in the NFL, 10 teams in Major League Baseball. And so it's pretty fascinating, just the fact that they're seeing the fact that this is what we need to understand on our players so that we can help them reach their goals a whole lot faster. Because, as college coaches, you're depending on kids to feed your kids. You're depending on your players that are anywhere from 18 to 22 years old. You're depending on those kids to play well so that you can feed your own kids, and I told somebody, I'm like, college coaches are crazy for that same reason. But you know what? They dive off into helping those kids develop, and they spend so many hours helping those kids get better. And, it's they need every tool they can just to try to help that happen.
Facts. All right. So, testing. We're going to look at one of the test scores and how to read it. I've never looked at it myself, so this is going to be new to me too. But what does a test consist of?
Yep. So there's two different, what we would call batteries. You have a pitching battery and a hitting battery, right? And so for a hitter reacts to what's happening from the pitcher. The pitcher actually gets to control of the environment. So when you talk about cognitive systems, the cognitive demands of a pitcher is not acting on sub-second in the millisecond ranges of his making decisions like a hitter is. It takes 380 milliseconds to hit 95 miles an hour. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 150 milliseconds just to execute the swing. You don't have much time to make that decision. And so you better have these systems online developed if you want to perform at the highest level. And a lot of times you'll see players that can overcompensate because they can swing faster. They're bigger, faster, stronger, and they can swing faster. And they're just like, but that kid never makes it out of AA. Right. And it's just like, well, what happened? Well, people started throwing harder. People started sharing space with pitches out of the hand. They started tunneling. Therefore, their systems may have been a little bit more underdeveloped, but their physical tools were carrying them along for as long as they could. And then at that point in time, they start getting weeded out because they can't continue to make that adjustment. It's just simply because they don't possess or haven't trained the way that they need to based on what their brain brings to the table. So pitchers are different, right? And so the pitcher's battery, what you're going to see, I think, today is different than a hitter's battery. A hitter's battery will measure two visual systems: perception speed, which is how fast you process visual information. And it doesn't matter about we're not measuring if you're 20/20 or 20/10 or 20/15. We're not measuring your vision. We're measuring your eyes give your brain some visual information. Your brain decides what it is, where's it going, how fast is it moving, and then it sends a signal to your body to execute that decision. Okay. And so we've eliminated your vision and eliminated your body. And we're just capturing how fast you can process and send out this information correctly. Okay. And so With that being said, a hitter has 2 visuals we measure and then 3 motor systems we measure. A pitcher has all motor systems that we measure because they don't need to process visual information on a rapid scale unless obviously a ball is hit back at them, right? And so they actually can control the environment. So there's 5 systems we measure on the pitching side and 5 we measure on the hitter side, and they're different. So if you want to pull up the report, we can kind of talk through and explain what that is.
Okay.
The fun part about this stuff is understanding that some systems develop sooner than others. Visual systems are typically hardwired by around 14, 15 years old. Motor systems don't fully mature until you're, some people 23, 24, 25 years old. And so what you're going to see on this report is this is a pitching report. And these systems typically aren't fully matured until mid-20s. And so this player has plenty of time to continue to work on these systems if they're underdeveloped. Some of these systems, and we'll talk about this, some of these systems don't even come online and really start truly developing until 13, 14, 15 years old. Okay, and so it's not uncommon to see a 14-year-old or a 13-year-old with lower scores in what we're about to see. And so that's what education is a big deal when it comes to understanding how to read one of these reports, but we try to make it as simple as possible. We give you a graph, and then we give you, hey, since you scored this way, each report is tailored specifically to that individual. And so since you scored this way on the graph, here's what you do about it on page 3. And page 4 is strictly just definitions of what it actually is. So let's go to this graph here.
Okay.
So on the very first system, you'll see right there, each one of these systems that we talk about are independent. They are 5 different systems that we're going to talk about. And so when you talk about focus and distraction, focus, we all pretty much know what focus is, but distraction, it's basically how well can you lock in on a certain subject or certain item, and then how well can you shield off distractionary things, right? So if you're a pitcher, how well can you focus on where you want to throw the ball or focus on your task and have that right on the forefront and you execute it with distracting things? Okay. I'm going to say something, and I guarantee you so many parents are not going to like this, but they're also going to love this. Whenever a parent talks, it doesn't matter what they're talking about. If they're talking loud enough for their kid to hear them, they're actually distracting their kid. And I'll tell you why.
Okay, please.
The kid, and we all have learned the sound of our parents' voice when we were in our mom's womb. So when we come out, that is the voice. You can hear your mama's voice anywhere in the stadium. She talks about getting her hair done. She talks about getting her nails done. You hear that. It don't matter what she's talking about. You hear that voice. And at that moment, you have to make a choice. Do I listen? Do I not? And at that point in time, you are what we would call having divided attention. If you're in the batter's box trying to hit or on the pitcher's mound trying to pitch, and you literally hear one of your parents' voice, at that moment, you have to make a choice. Do I listen, do or not? And it's not just mom and dad. It's impactful people in their lives. It could be grandma, grandpa. It could be one of the coaches. Some of the coaches need to be quiet more than they are, because at some point in time, you're actually pulling away the player's attention. And so there's a little task that we would do. It's get you to look at someone's face, but then put numbers up beside their face and tell you not to look at the numbers, but you can still see them. And then I would say, tell me how many numbers I'm holding up. It's like, tell me how many numbers I'm holding up without looking at them. And you're like, oh, that's 4. And I'm like, well, you never looked at them, but your attention was on them. Right. And so that's a problem. That's a problem. You're trying to hit 95 miles an hour and you got 380 milliseconds to do that. and now I've got only half of that working because I've got divided attention. Good luck. And so some of the things, it's funny because some of the organizations, when we go to youth ball organizations and offer this service to those clubs, they're like, hey, will you tell our parents? They spend a lot of money, and they're not here like bashing them, right? They're like, will you tell our parents, because they spend a lot of money trying to get their kids to play better, and you're sounding like they could be some of the issue on accident. Yes. Yes, because parents only want the best for their children. And so at the end of the day, sometimes I've got 3 of my own. Sometimes we are the problem, and that's something that, especially when you see this report, a 7 percentile in focus and distraction, that is something that his mom and dad have already visited with his dad about this, and he's just like, yeah, we're just gonna go out there and let him do his thing. We're not gonna interrupt and be any kind of a distraction for him. We're just gonna let him do his thing. And that's something that's really important, I think, because when you know this information, and you really want the best for your kid, why wouldn't we do that? It's not that you're not cheering for him. It's cheer for him in a situation where it's not going to bother him, right? And you could be giving them the best information possible. It's still going to be a distraction to them. So
that could be this last little 5-minute focus and distraction, thing you just did right now could be its own, what I'm saying, show right there.
True.
For all us parents, because we all there.
Absolutely. And we do it innocently. We do it innocently, and we do it not knowingly. That's why. It's like so many people don't know how impactful just the sound of their voice is. So check this out. Here's another example. So I had a player who was pitching, and he always knew where his dad was. He always knew where his dad was. He'd look. He always knew, and he would move around in the stadium, right? And so one time he's playing third base, and literally right after he made an error, his dad had waited as long as he could before he needed to go to the restroom. And the kid just happened to make an error, and the dad got up and went to the restroom and then came back. And so the kid literally thought his dad got disgusted with him because he made the error and left. And it's like, no, he's like, I had to go to the restroom, and I waited as long as I could. And I was just hoping to get through the half inning, but I couldn't. And so I left. It just happened that you made an error right before, and he's like, oh, that's not why I got up at all. And so just understand that kids they're literally looking and listening, all the time. They're very observant when it comes to, especially us, that car ride home is a big deal. And it's a big deal. And I tell you, it impacts focus and distraction, especially if you're low at this. If you're low in focus and distraction, whenever you walk 3 guys and you're like, man, I better get this next guy out or else coach is going to come get me. Or, man, that car ride home is going to stink since I'm 0 for 3 already with 2 punch outs. If I don't get a hit here, that car ride home is going to be terrible. Dad's going to be all over me. None of that helps you hit, but all of that is real. All of that happens in the batter's box and on the pitcher's mound on accident. And if you can't block it out, you really, really, really need to make sure that that's not a part of your life, right? Right. And so it's a big, big deal to understand if you can and can't control that. With the focus and distraction in the 7 percentile, that's going to be a tough thing to deal with. But if we don't train him and give him opportunities to learn how to deal with that, he's never going to get better at it. You can't will yourself to be better at these things. You have to practice it. And we have on, we'll get to this, but on page 3, because of the way he scores on this current page, that will tell him what he needs to do and how he needs to practice and how he needs to start implementing some of these things in his practice so they won't show up in a negative fashion on the field. The whole point of this evaluation is to help you play better.
I love it. So the next one.
So let's go. Yeah. So let's go to rhythm control. Rhythm control is a system in the brain that is how well can you sync up your motor movements, right? And so, when we talk about hey, let's go from the wind up, or let's go from the stretch, or let's do this, let's do that. It's really tough when a player scores low in rhythm and control to be able to maybe throw some sort of pause at the top. Like, you think about Johnny Cueto. I guarantee you his rhythm control is off the charts. He pauses, he twists, he quick pitches, he does, and he does it really well.
Yes, it
right. And so with that being said, this scored a 59%. 50 is average, right? And so if we were to look at his reference group, I'm not 100% sure without looking at the top of this what reference group he's referenced against, but the reference group is 50 would be average. And so anything that's 40 to 60 would be average. Once you get to 60 and above, you're talking about some special stuff. Okay. And so that's something that we need to really understand. And depending on his reference group, if he's referenced against pro guys here, that's really, really good. If he's referenced against the top high school prospects, that's still really, really good. And so if he's referenced against his peers, once again, it's still really good. Right. And so when you're talking about getting around that 60 number and higher, I mean, at the end of the day, if he's got some physical gifts, man, this is going to be something really, really special, especially the fact that I think he's 16, 17, right, somewhere in there. I mean, he still has time to develop these systems and help him become that much better. Rhythm control. So let's think about this. It's interesting. We had, some of our pitching coaches talk to us and they're like, we've got a pitcher who's bad at rhythm control and bad at focus and distraction. So what we did was we bring him in a clean inning. And he started from his windup, but he would always walk the first guy because he had bad rhythm. And now he's distracted because he's got a runner on first base. And so he would always give up runs. So we just decided, hey, let's minimize the things he's got to synchronize, like his windup. Let's just go stretch only. So he comes in, stretch only, doesn't now walk the first guy because there's way less moving parts to manage. And synchronize. And so he goes stretch only, gets the first guy out, gets the second guy out, gets the third guy out, has so many more clean innings, lowered his ERA from a 7 to a 3 over 6 weeks.
Nice.
It helps us understand how to play them better as well, right? And so let's maximize what they bring to the table. That goes back to saying it's not fair for you to ask me to dunk when I can't. It's not fair for us to ask someone to do something based on what their brain says it's going to be a deficiency. It's not fair for us to try to expect them to be able to do that, right? And so this helps us understand what we're working with and how we can help play these players better, not only just develop them better, right? In the meantime, we're going to tap into training and developing these systems as much as we possibly can. But while we're playing, we're going to play them and put them in positions to grant them more chances for success.
Love it.
On to the motor command. Motor command is about how well you can stop your old habits and make adjustments in the moment.
Wow.
And so
in the moment.
In the moment, right? And so when you're talking about in competition, like this doesn't mean that, him scoring a 1 doesn't mean that he can't do it. It just means it's going to take him longer to do it. Okay. What it means is if you're going to teach him to throw, let's say he's used to throwing a slider or a curveball one way, and then you give him a different grip and then change his arm slot just a little bit. Don't expect him to be able to learn that and apply it as fast as he wants to either, versus as well as fast how you want to do it. Right. And so what happens is you'll find this is a player that would have hey, let's go into the pen and let's learn this new pitch. It's an abbreviated version of what you're used to doing. Well, when you have to stop your old ways of doing something to apply a new way, stopping that old way is going to be hard for him. Applying the new way isn't going to be that big of a deal to learn. It's just him. Which one is he going to pick and choose when it comes game time? He's going to want to pick the new one because he sees how much better it is working for him in the bullpen. But when he gets in competition, we revert back to what we know the most. He won't be able to stop it, and he won't be able to stop his old way of doing it to use the new way as fast as he wants to. This is a player who has to just trust it and stay with it. He may go through some bumpy times, but it's like, don't give up on it, because we know your brain is having trouble stopping the old way. You're not being defiant. You're not choosing to do the old way. You're trying to do the new way. Keep doing it. Keep trying. Keep working at it. And it's just it just helps players understand it. They're not at fault for it. It's not my fault that this keeps happening, and I'm not giving them a crutch. I'm just I'm showing everyone the reason. Guys, this is the reason this is happening. Right? The player wants to do it so badly, but because of this system in the brain for him is underdeveloped where it is, he needs to just continue to try more and more and more, right? And stay with it longer and longer and longer, and not tinker and give up on it.
I love it.
All right, let's go to the next one. Every situation in the game of life creates some sort of risk, okay? And so what that means is, as a society, we're about a 30% risk-averse society. No one likes to be risky, okay, as a whole. Right. And so a 50 here is he's more risk tolerant, but he's still not really, really, really going to be that risky, right? And so 50 isn't actually average here. 30 on this one would be. Okay. And so the perfect number would probably be around a 60. So we would call that a risk optimizer. So they're going to take calculated risk, but they're going to shy away from things they shouldn't, right? And so a person with low risk tendencies, you're going to coach them to where it's like, if it's a pitcher, like, they've got 3 pitches, and it's not even 1, 2, and 3. It's 1A, 1B, and 1C. They all can be strike pitches whenever they want.
Right.
You may have to encourage a pitcher that has low risk to throw his third pitch in a big situation, because he can, but he might be so risk averse that he wants to revert to, I just don't want to get beat with my secondary stuff. So this is a player who probably has that golf shot in the bag, but lays up. Like if he's a low risk guy, if he's a high risk guy, that's 10 cup. I'm going for it no matter what. You ask a guy with high risk, hey, here's the situation. Bases loaded. We're the visiting team. 2 outs, 3-2 count. You know that this player can't hit a changeup. You're going to get him out if you throw a changeup. But your changeup is your worst pitch in your bag. Do you throw it? People with high risk tendencies, they're going to instantly say, yep, I'm throwing it.
Right.
And that's not always the right thing to do, because as soon as they bounce it, he takes it, they walk, we lose the game.
Right.
And so that's the thing is risk tendencies. It's not always about fixing risk tendencies. It's about understanding how you're wired and what you're going to be more capable of doing and what the right situations. I would call this more of an educational piece. You want to educate someone who has low risk or high risk on how to use that to their advantage.
Do you think because I know this kid's soft on crafty lefty, but could be put in any situation. I used to put him in any situation, bases loaded or starting or whatever, and he never looked rattled. You know what I'm saying? And would that be make his
So I would say that's right now? I would say that's probably more confidence, and that's a whole nother bucket. Like we talk about 5 buckets. You got to have tools, that's your bat speed, your strength. Then you got to have your mechanics. That's another bucket. Your swings got to be on point, your bat path, your kinetic chain. Then we talk about game knowledge and experience for bucket 3. You got to be able to know how to play the game, right, and what to do and have experience in doing it. And then bucket 4 would be the mental side of the game, the psychological side, which is how well do I deal with failure, my work ethic, my character, my grit. All of those things are in that psychological side. And then the 5th bucket is what we bring, which is the cognitive side, which is the hardware in which your brain brings to the table. And so, you can have high scores all across the board on our evaluation, but still not be able to play. You know, if your bat speed is 20 miles an hour, you're probably not going to perform. Right. I mean, that's a physical piece. That's bucket one, right? If you don't know how to play the game and you have high cognition, well, you're still probably not going to be very good. You just don't know how to play. You know, and so once again, that's why I say all of these technologies are a piece of the puzzle that are very important. And understanding, you know, it's like we're kind of the why a player plays the way they play. And a lot of the other technologies are, here's the measures based on what the player just did.
Right.
You know, and so, you know, that's why we feel like it's very important to understand who you're dealing with first, so that we can get some of those numbers, and even should we even expect to see some of those numbers that some of these formulas are creating in the first place. You know, we all know that Hall of Fame numbers are this, their launch angles are this, their blast motion says this, their launch angle, exit velo, blah, 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 blah. They all say these things, which are very important because they're measuring exactly what the player's done. And these are the numbers that Hall of Famers produce. But what do you do to get those numbers? And can you even get those numbers from a certain individual? You think about a Lamborghini and a Ford Focus. They don't perform the same. They're both cars. They can both get you from point A to point B, but not the same. You know, and so it's a matter of one's going to get you there a whole lot faster and cooler, you know, but on the flip side of it, it's if you don't know how to drive either one of them, you're going to have a problem.
Facts.
So, all right, let's go to that last one, instinctive learning. This is a phenomenal score for him. Instinctive learning is a category that we would call, and our pro teams and coaches have called this a gamer. And what I mean by that, instinctive learning is you figuring it out without someone telling it to you. And what I mean by that is your brain is constantly seeing things and storing away information, and it starts to stitch these pieces of information together to create a thought and create an action. And so when he's pitching, he's going to be watching and seeing, hey, this time he did this. When I pitched to him last game, he did this. He did that. He was early, and I got him out throwing this pitch followed by this pitch. It will help him develop a pitch sequence, and he will start to see how that player is playing throughout the day. It'll help him know, you know, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do, because, you know, we had a player on the offensive side. It was pretty funny. Had a player on the offensive side. Pitcher starts out, he goes fastball away, strike one, big curveball, strike two, short curveball in the dirt, swing and miss, strike three. Comes back to the dugout, next at bat, literally the guy hit repeat. Fastball away, strike one, big curveball, strike two, short curveball in the dirt, strike three. And on the way back to the dugout, one of the hitters looks at him and goes, "Do you realize they pitch you the same way twice and you didn't make an adjustment at all?" And he said, and he kind of looked up and was thinking, he's like, "Dang, they did." He's like, "How did you not know that?" But we look at his report, and he's low in instinctive learning. And the kid who noticed it wasn't even his at bat. Right? Wasn't even him. It was somebody else. And he's like, "Dude, they pitch you the same way." That kid was really, really high at this. And so it's your brain is always stitching together information that's happening, and it forms a thought, and that helps you perform. You know, and that's why you think Derek Jeter, when he made that unbelievable backhanded flip to home plate, you think he's practiced that play? No, not at all. But he saw what was happening. His brain was stitching together all of that information at a very high speed, and he chose to go over there and do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what instinctive learning is. That's being a gamer. It's learning on the fly. And so if a person does have a low score here in instinctive learning, what we want to do is we want to help them understand, hey, you know, all we have to do is teach you the game more. You need more classroom time spent learning the game, knowing the game, going through situations. Do you know how in spring training we would go through plays that you might see once every 2 years?
Exactly. Yeah.
And we're like, why are we doing this? Right. But this is why right here. Because if that play ever were to happen, it wouldn't catch anyone with low instinctive learning off guard. That's why, right? And so that's how that can be covered up and not have it show up in a negative way on the field. The ultimate goal for our company is to do this. measure you, see where you are, and help you with a player development program and plan so that you play better. We don't care if you come back next year, take the test, and score better. That doesn't do anything for us. The goal is to make you a better player. Your brain is going to continue to mature and continue to get better. And will your scores go up? Probably. But at the end of the day, our focus is to help you be a better player, not a better test taker.
Gotcha. Love it.
So go down, if you don't mind, to page 3. And this is basically, since he scored what he scored, this is what you do about it. And so you can see that right there. And it, it's a little hard for me to see it and read it, but
translating the score, right? Is that 3 or 4? Which one is that?
That's 4.
Okay, my bad.
So translating the score is the follow-up to the whole report, which is basically, hey, here's what all this stuff is. Here's what focus and distraction is. Here's what rhythm control is. Here's what motor command is. This is based on how you scored. Here is what instinctive learning drills you should do. Here is what rhythm control you should do. Here's what you should do with focus and distraction. Here's what you should do with motor command. That's what this page is about. So this is all part of a normal report that you would get. And this is what our pro teams and college teams get. When we go to their camps and everyone goes through their camp and we're a station in their camp, coaches get to see this information, players get to see this information, and then you get to go home and work on it.
Let me ask you this. So obviously just pitching skills and all that, but how many of the rhythm control, instinctive learning, focus, distraction, motor command, and I'm guessing risk tendencies, is that the same for hitters too?
Nope. So there are in the youth battery, there are 5 tasks just like this. Risk tendency is not there. Motor command's not there. Focus and distraction is there.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, focus and distraction, perception speed, which is a visual, trajectory prediction, which is your visual system that is responsible for knowing where the ball is going to cross through the strike zone, which is where do I swing the bat to hit the ball. And then we have a timing component, which is when do I swing the bat. And then we have, it's fun because in that particular system, we can tell you if you're more vulnerable catching up to a fastball after you saw an off-speed pitch or slowing down for an off-speed pitch after you saw a fastball. So our brains get primed one direction or the other, and some brains get stuck one direction or the other. And this information helps us understand if you get stuck and you have a hard time catching up to a fastball, a player would be like, slider ball 1, slider ball 2, and then a fastball right down the middle, and they're late on it. And you're in the dugout going, what are you waiting on? It's a 2-0 fastball. Why did you not snap hook that to the pull side? You're late on it. Well, it's not their fault. That's how their brains are wired. Some people's brains are just wired that way. And we have to first identify who those players are. But secondly, we have to help them understand if this is who you are, we really need you to do drill work that moves you and teaches you how to catch up to a fastball after an off-speed pitch. We need to continue to train them in a certain specific direction to help them with timing. And it's literally just kind of helping them reset their brain.
Nice.
And it's like they don't even know why these things are happening because they literally would turn around and say, I don't know why I was late. I was looking for a fastball. Right?
Every time, I'm sorry, Philly, I don't mean to cut you, but it's like when I hear these things, I just be like, gosh, I'm like, I wish I would learn this stuff. I wish I would know, like, when I was playing, you know what I mean? Like, what I would be, what I'll be learning, what I'll be doing, and what my mind was on, you know?
Absolutely. So I've taken this test, and I can go and tell you another one we do is impulse control, which is the #1 analytical link to chase rates. And I know it's like I had high vision. I had both of my systems were high, but I would still chase pitches in the dirt. And I remember, hey, why are you swinging at that? You're not going to stick around if you keep doing that. Well, I ain't trying to. I don't know why I'm doing it, but I want to stop.
Right.
Do you have anything to help me stop? Right. Well, the answer is yes. Now we do. Right. And so I'll tell you this, on those tales of what I just said, we've done studies with this program, and with this system, and we measure players. And if they have low timing is strictly related to contact rates. And so we can put players through training programs. We did a study. We raised players' contact rates anywhere from 18 to 22%. Their hard contact went up. Their swing and miss went down. Their fair territory contact was up. Everything went in the right direction. When we talk about impulse control, we trained kids to see if we could train them not to swing at the high fastball, not to swing at the slider in the dirt. Well, we did it. And you know what? But the group got better on average by 75 to 78% on laying off of those pitches that they didn't want to swing at. Some of our college programs, they do drills, and they target their kids knowing that this is the pitch you chase the most, you have to do these drills. This is the pitch you chase the most, you have to do those drills. And because they do those drills, they lowered their chase rates in inner squads by 10%. I mean, you're talking about raising your production on the field. That's what we're here for. That's the whole point of this.
Tiffany asks, would these 5 apply to catchers as well?
Not all 5. Yeah, not all 5. So that's a great question. And if one of our co-founders were on this, he'd start smiling right now, because I punch him all the time on developing a straight catching battery. This is a pitching battery. Just like hockey goalies don't do the same thing as the guys on the ice out there skating around. It's not the same. So we would have to cherry pick systems from the pitching and from the hitting battery, and even add a couple of the other ones that aren't even in the baseball battery to be more specific for catchers. So focus and distraction clearly is a big deal. Rhythm isn't that big of a deal for a catcher. Motor command is not that big of a deal. Instinctive learning is huge, because that's game calling.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so understanding how well they are at that, it's a big deal. And we tell our staffs all the time, if you've got a pitcher that's low in instinctive learning and a catcher that's low in instinctive learning, don't expect them to make good choices.
Right.
They have to be taught. In college, that isn't that big of a deal, because they call the pitches themselves, right? But in pro ball, they have to spend more time in the classroom learning, hey, what's the best pitch after a fastball away? What's the best pitch after a fastball in? Maybe a changeup. Maybe it's just like learning what pitch sequences go best with what. But it's the whole purpose is to not discard a player because they have low scores. It's to focus more on those areas so that we can develop them to be better, so that they don't show up in a negative way on the field. If a player has a 3 or a 4 on their report, we want to make sure it doesn't look like a 3 or a 4 on the field.
Got you, Phil.
So that's about it with the report there. If you want to,
okay.
Like I said, the last is just like translating what it means, what the processes are, just kind of like the definitions of them. So, but every player that takes one of these reports, takes the evaluation, they get one of these reports, and literally the information is right there for you to start working on. And we're working on testing facilities and where you can go throughout the country. We're getting to where we're about to expand pretty good here come fall time. And so, we do work with youth organizations. So if you guys play for travel ball teams, or this is something that's interesting to you, I mean, you can feel free to go to s2cognition.com and just click on, want more info. And you can just
Cognition. Let's see if I spell this thing right. S2cognition.com.
Yep. And you can just go to that and just click on, more info or something at the bottom of the screen. I think there at the bottom, you can click on baseball and see what it is. You can see. Yeah. Yep. And if you click on that website, you can find us and get there, and we can just inquire on whatever you want to ask, and we can help you understand anything you need to understand about it. So
I want to before we go, Philly. I just want to for people who might have joined late, who people are going to be listening to the replay. How often and how many colleges coaches are using this, and where do you see this going? All right, these type of testings for pitchers, hitters, where do you see this going? So how often is being used now, and where do you see this is going?
yeah, so in the near future, I would say that this is probably going to be kind of like the SAT and the ACT. It's going to be to the point to where college may or may not recruit you based on did you take it or did you not. And so at the end of the day, they're going to want to know about their investment. But once again, like I said, the players play. You got to play in order to get seen, right? You got to perform on the field. What we're trying to do is just help you understand if you're making mistakes, why are you making those mistakes? And so because these colleges are going to want to kickstart that player development. They're going to want to know, all right, if we're going to commit you, you need to start really training like this so that those things start to disappear more, because literally the higher you go, the velocities get faster, the pitch tunneling gets tighter, and the competition just gets that much better. And they want to make sure that you can perform at that level. And they want to give you every possible piece of information they can to help you do that. Because if you've already committed there, unless they break your heart and just completely snatch that out from under you, because they overcommitted. But at the end of the day, it's like, hopefully they don't do that. But, this is one of those to where you take a player who maybe is just a little underdeveloped in their body, but yet they score off the charts on our evaluation. Well, they know they got something there. It's just, hey, we're not going to skip on that player because he's small. We've got a great strength conditioning program. When we get him in here in the fall and start training, he's going to throw on 10, 15 pounds. Now he's going to develop in that great little athlete we think. Oh, and by the way, we already know that he's got it in between his ears. And now you're taking a player that may not have had as big of a chance because he was undersized, but now you're looking at this player now getting an opportunity simply because they know what he brings to the table and making high quality decisions in the batter's box and on the field.
I love this just for that stuff alone. It's like in my mind, I get this like R2D2, Jedi type of thing where if I would like to say 12, 13 and under, or maybe 14, 15 and under, by the time you get to like evaluating a player, all the technology, everything that's going on, they're going to know what you're going to think beforehand. They're going to know everything. It's going to be scary. Like, it's going to be not just going to be skills. It's going to be up here. It's kind of scary to think about it. Am I right or what?
Yeah. The cool part though is like, I think sometimes players get a little nervous on, if I take the test and they find something wrong with me, are they going to want me? Right. I think that's something to talk about, because the answer is, that's a real question. And I had a professional player who didn't want to take the test for that reason. And my response to him was, you're here because we like you already without knowing this information.
Right.
I want to take this information and make you better. That's the goal. I want to know why you keep swinging at that pitch. Is it a visual reason or is it a motor reason? Because if I'm training you this way and it's this way is the problem, I'm cheating you a chance to get better. And that's not okay for me. That's why it's very important to understand what you bring to the table, so that we coach you and stop guessing and comping you to the wrong person. That's the biggest thing for me, is I don't want to guess anymore on what a player needs, because I don't know until he has this evaluation to help us understand he's late on pitches because of a visual reason or because of a motor reason. You don't train him the same way. If I tell a kid to swing sooner and he's got bad visual processing skills, I've now put him in a predicament, because now I'm telling him to swing sooner and he don't even know what pitch it is yet.
Mm.
And he's having to commit to where a pitch is supposed to be in his mind. And it turns out it's not a fastball, it's a slider. And now he swings and misses by 3 feet. And I'll look at him and be like, what are you doing? That's
Right.
so wrong. That's so
Right.
wrong. And when it was all my fault if I told him to do that.
Right.
But we do that because we don't know what their problem is.
And it
We
sounds
don't
it
know.
sounds like it sounds like from a coach's standpoint, we need to, you know what I'm saying? We need to know this type of stuff just as important how to coach those kids, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So understanding what they bring to the table, I can't ask a player what to do something if he can't do it. So now I have to play him in certain situations before his system is up to par to handle that, right? And so, but I'm gonna drill him, and I'm gonna put him in drills, and I'm gonna practice him, and I'm gonna teach him in the ways that he really needs it, not under the umbrella that we all do the same drills. That's not cool no more.
Mm.
You know, we have too much information to be
Right.
lazy to help players. We have too much information these days.
Wow.
You know, the ideal age to get this done, you know, great question, is the younger, the better. You know, and so we feel confident about where our system is measuring 13-year-olds, 12, 13-year-olds, but understand some of those systems in the motor side are just coming online. The visual sides are just coming on, you know, about to be hardwired around 15, 13, 14, 15. And so, but here's the thing is you can't guess your way to a good score. There's no practice effect. You can't do that. And so it just measures what you bring to the table that day. You come in, you offer your best, we're going to give you your results. And so what happens is when we see those results, a lot of times people are like, oh man, I'm in the 5th percentile, 7th percentile, man, I must stink. No, that's just where you are today. I mean, you're 12, you're 13. You know,
Right.
it's not, you're not going to go from a 7 to a 94.
Right.
Okay. Just like your 60 is not going to go from a 7 flat to a 6-1. It just ain't happening. Right. So we all have limits and we all have abilities to grow as well, you know, and so it's once again, it's what hand were you dealt and how are you going to play that hand, right? Because we're here to try to teach you how to play your hand more successfully.
Facts, man. Philly, I want you to tell that story here. Tony want me to. Miranda says, tell Paul I requested him on the website. All right, and whatever that means. Okay, so all right, I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know, Facebook or something. When your friend requested,
He probably,
I don't know,
he probably went to the info section on the website. It's like, hey, I want to request Paul to call me.
Okay. The before we go out, Philly, I want you to tell, you know, because this is, you know, a great story. You've been on here and you told this story before too, but I want to hear for the listeners who may have not heard it and who maybe listen to the replay, how important these testings and readings are. All right, and so if you could tell that story about the dude that the Pirates drafted, right, and what did this do for him?
So, you know, one of our organizations, I mean, if you're going to say it was the Pirates, then, you know, if one of our organizations literally had a player slotted in a certain slot and he took our evaluation and pretty much just dominated it, right? Was in the 98th, 99th percentile overall. And so that's very hard to do. And they moved him up in the draft. He ended up making $500,000 more simply because they didn't want to miss on him, you know? And so I know that because his agent called me and asked me, hey, is this why? Did he score good? Because we can't give them the answers to the test, right? He's like, did he score good? I'm like, why do you ask? Like, because he got moved up 2 slots and $500,000 more. And I'm like, well, just so you know, he did great, you know? And so, but with that being said, you know, even the agency was like, we didn't expect him to go that high. We had him 2 slots lower and they ended up picking him 2 slots higher. And so it's like they knew that he didn't do anything different except our evaluation. You know, and so that's I don't know, it's I've never seen it hurt a player. You know,
Tiffany said,
I've only seen it help.
Yup, I agree. Now that's why I wanted you to share that story. Tiffany said, "I think this would be very helpful for athletes in marketing themselves through the recruiting process, knowing what their strengths are." And that's exactly what we're doing, Tiffany. That's why I
Yep.
have Philly on here, because this is the way it's going. Tiffany, this is the
Yes.
way you're going to market your player. And I believe and Philly, I think, agrees with me. This will be the norm. This will be,
Yep.
like he just said, the SAT and the ACT. This will be mandatory for, if not all, but many schools. If the pros are doing it
Yep.
now, you got 10 major league
Right.
teams that are using these evaluations already.
And just to help you understand, the reason it's only 10 major league teams is because they pay to have an exclusive rights so that everyone in their division doesn't get it. They pay to keep other teams from having it. They want the competitive advantage.
I ain't gonna say nothing else to that. All right, it's that important. It's that important to them. All right, everything always trickles down. So who
Right.
knows? So yes, Tiffany, that's exactly why I brought Philly on here, just to have them explain that. So yeah, great observation, Tiff. All right. Listen, Philly, you're gonna take us out on a great message over there. I'm gonna put the site back up too, before we end. I want everybody to have a great weekend. I have I know we had technical issues 2 days ago. We had Brock Moss from Texas A&M International on Wednesday. And I know there's a lot of technical issues we have with him, so he's agreed to come back on Monday. So be ready. Hopefully, everything will go well, and with him on the interview, so we can hear more about the Division II school in Texas. We are looking about having Miss Nadine Wheat to come and become. Nadine and JP came on last week to share their story about committing to Georgia Tech and how it helped them. But she's a wealth of knowledge when it comes to this recruiting, and I think she can help many parents. She's an educator by trade, so I kind of want her to come on and help more parents. A lot of people have been asking me about her contact information, so maybe this next week she'll come back on. Definitely the following week. Also, again, the showcase will be in Little Rock, Arkansas, April 24th. All right. Come. We'll have many. Hopefully, we get my boy Philly over there and his crew out there. One of these showcases where, and this is where it's going. He's talked to other groups. He's talked to mine, where we will have this type of testing eventually at my showcases. You know what I'm saying? So, this is where it's going. So, I'm gonna get them there. One of these events and one of these locations. We're talking about it and getting them there. So, definitely we'll pump that up. So, Philly, man. So, if you can, please finish with the, with a great message, if you could, brother. Please take us on out.
Yeah. So, just to recap for the parents here that are investing in their kids, just, literally just try to give them the best opportunity that they can by just kind of sitting there watching, cheer in the right moments, not while they're trying to perform, because it's just it's an innocent mistake that a lot of people don't really understand and don't know. But at the end of the day, it's all very innocent, because all you want is the best for your kids, and we understand that. I do the same thing. I even have to find myself shutting my mouth, and I know this information, right? And so at the end of the day, I just want everybody to understand the whole purpose of coaches, parents, putting your players in sports is just a direct reflection of the way the game of life is, right? Baseball has umpires, life has police officers. Baseball has teammates, life has employees that are trying to get to the same position, right? They're trying to get that promotion, right? Baseball has an opponent. Life also has businesses that are trying to compete for the same people, right? At the end of the day, 94% go pro in something other than baseball. What are we leaving them with? What are we teaching our kids other than just trying to get to pro baseball, right? And so the message for me would be, what are you leaving your kid with? What are you leaving the player with? For coaches, what are you leaving those guys with that aren't going to play pro ball? Because it's really hard to get to the big leagues. And like I said, 94% go pro in something other than baseball or other than sports. What are we leaving those kids with? Let's think about that part.
I ain't gonna say no more. Listen, great message, Philly Phil. Appreciate you, my brother. Thank you, like always. Hope to
Absolutely,
see you
buddy.
one of these
Thanks for having me on.
cases. Reach out to my boy, man. If you just like
Yep.
last time he came on, he had a couple guys over to get testing. Find out, how you can get to Nashville and get the testing, or find out where he may be. I know on my show, okay, he'll eventually get to those, man. But like, listen, this is where the baseball, this is where it's going. Recruiting, scouting, all of that. All right. So find out where he's going to be, and come to Nashville right now and come take this test, and tell him D Brown sent you, all right, and he'll be there, all right. So Philly Phil,
That's
love you, my
right.
brother, like always, bro. Keep it
Thanks,
coming.
buddy. Appreciate it,
Everybody,
D.
happy Easter. All right, brother. Happy. You can sign off if
Happy
you want to.
Easter.
I know you got to go, but I know you got the kids, man. So I appreciate you, brother.
Yep. All right,
Happy
buddy.
Easter to
Thanks, man.
everybody, and I'll see you guys Monday 4 p.m.